there's been a couple of players in recent years from Jeffrey Simmons, Sidney Jones that slid because of injuries in this process. And the question is, like, Ojabo, just for the ones that don't know, he would have been a top 20 pick. He was the bookend pass rusher to Hutchinson, was a guy that didn't have a lot of football as background. And unfortunately, he just tore his ACL, at the pro day a couple days ago. So obviously he's going to slide, and it's an interesting discussion, in terms of, does he make it out of the first round now, or not? But he'll be, I think, in my opinion, somewhere between 25 and 45, because he has a chance to be a really good player. And we wanted to get Dr. Flynn's professional opinion on the injury. But from a team building standpoint, he could turn out to be great value, much the way that Jeffrey Simmons was. So this was the list of like the recent players that have had injuries, significant injuries. And then the other interesting part of this discussion is, Jamison Williams and Mechie, the two Alabama players, both had significant injuries towards the end of the season. But for that, they'd both be drafted highly. Again, like Williams still maybe. So it's definitely, unfortunate for Ojabo, but it's not unprecedented, and we'll see, how it turns out for him.
I think the important thing to remember with this injury is that not every athlete is Cam Akers. I think a 6 month recovery is quick. A 5 to 6 month recovery is really quick. And so just keeping that in your mind, I think we've really come a really long way with Achilles repairs. I think the internal bracing technique that's done now to get these guys moving very quickly is what's making the biggest impact. The fact that they're able to bear weight on that foot very quickly and start running with anti-gravity treadmills very quickly is probably why we're seeing guys be able to come back so soon. So I think, a couple of things. Number one, could he come back this year and play? Yes. When I watched that video, and I asked Andy's opinion on this too, when you saw the injury happen, the drill that was occurring right before it, there were some body control issues that worried me a little bit in that. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but I think you really have to look at why did the injury happen. And so watching his other film, really thinking about how he moves, not just on the field, but, in practice, I think is important in helping you judge how quickly he's going to recover, and taking advantage of the next 6 months, to really help him get there is important.
From one of the people on the call, do you think his body control, the way he moves, will make him susceptible to other injuries?
Yes, if that drill is indicative of how he typically moves. I mean, it's such a weird, these pro day things are so weird. I don't know where in his day that happened. I don't know if he was totally fatigued by then, but I would love if any of you watch it, to give me feedback, tell me what you thought. But I just thought he wasn't moving great again for those 2.5 seconds that I saw him doing change of direction. So
one other person that we were going to have weigh in on this was Jake Butt. So as many of you know, Jake was a highly regarded prospect, probably going to be a first rounder, tight end, who unfortunately got hurt in the Orange Bowl. And obviously it impacted his pre-draft status and unfortunately a meaningful part of his career. But Jake, if you kind of want to take us, a little bit through your journey from, when you got hurt to how it impacted, the whole draft process.
Yeah, I can. So my situation is very different from David's, where, playing a tight end, it's a less impactful position. It was my second ACL in the same knee, so that's going to weigh a little bit heavier than the first injury. And then I was coming out in a historically great tight end class. So how far I slipped was dependent on a lot of different factors. I mean, it definitely affected, how much a team would trust my ability to play. To come back. 2 ACLs is a lot worse than 1. So it definitely caused me to slip in the draft. But in relation to David, this is his first Achilles. Really, I don't know that he's had any major injuries before this. And, this is David's 5th year playing football, I believe. He was a he grew up not playing football. He just came to the United States not too long ago. So the general wear and tear on his body is going to be a lot less than, a guy that's tearing his Achilles a couple years into the league. So that he's got that on his side as well. And defensive end, it's a lot more impactful position than a tight end. So, you can expect, and as Doc Jess said, they heal these things now. I was able to come back from 3 total ACLs. The third ACL was a lot harder than the first one. The first one I played in a game 6 months post-surgery. My third ACL, it took me almost 2 years, and I still really don't feel 100%. Again, this is David's first Achilles, so he's got that on his side. He's young in the game of football. He's got that on his side. And his trajectory is so high. I think there's still a lot of upside for a guy like Ojabo.
Spoken by a guy that's 1,000% biased and just reeking of loyalty.
Jake, do you think that there's a worry that he's going to push himself too quickly after having the Cam Akers comparisons and not be willing to take maybe the extra month or two? Or do you think is there a worry that he's going to be trying to get himself back on the field before he's actually 100%?
I guess that depends on his doctor and the people in his corner and the team that drafts him. So I think that's more going to be the telltale sign than David. I think David will probably, just as most competitive athletes, they'll go as far as you let them, and you got to set clear boundaries for him. I don't think anyone should try to rush him back if you're going to invest that kind of capital in him. Remembering it's still his 5th year playing football. You're really drafting this guy for what he can be with 2 or 3 more years under his belt. So there's no sense in rushing him, especially if it's a late round, first round draft pick. Typically you have a solid roster. That's why you're drafting that late. You can give him a little bit of extra time to heal.